ask us to introduce ourselves, and Irita
Well, we'd like to welcome people here to this COVID-limited.
Move the mic down.
Oh, you want it down further?
Yes,
okay, we're still working this out.
No.
To this COVID-limited presentation of his Festschrift to Professor Louis Midgley on the day following his 90th birthday. So we missed it by a little bit, but not by much. So this is going to be brief. We just wanted to say a few words and hand him the book and praise him a little bit, see if we can embarrass him just a little bit. So I think, well, let's see. And is it customary in something like this to begin with a prayer? I don't know that it is. We just do the thing. So all right. So what I think I'll do is just turn the time over. Let me say something about this book, by the way. It has been a long time in coming, much longer than it should have been. And the fact that it has finally appeared is due, I was going to say in no small part, it's due to a very, very large degree to the work of Shirley Ricks and Jeff Bradshaw, who are here with us. And then Ted Vagelis, who is the other co-editor of the volume, is going to be joining us, if everything works out and the gods of technology cooperate, from Missouri. So if I can ask Shirley to just come up and say a few things, and then after Shirley, Jeff, if you would just come right up, that would be great. I can step away.
Well, I'm glad to be here today to honor Lou. Lou, you have to know that I wrote out a very lengthy speech that I was going to give, and I left it on my table at home. So I'm so sorry, but this is from the heart. My husband and I have known Lou for a number of years, and there are three things about Lou that you should remember. One is his great devotion to his wife, Irita. Number two, his love of New Zealand and the people. And number three, his defense of the gospel and his principles. And that sums it up. But let me share a few experiences with Lou. I went to Lou's retirement party. When was that, Lou? A long time ago. And I probably didn't know him very well then. I probably was invited because I was Stephen's wife and got treated to the Ballad of Lou the Mean, which I think we're going to have the opportunity of hearing today. And that was a lovely example of being with you. And then Dan Peterson here started the Farms Review. And this was the first volume right here, 1989, volume 1. And would you believe that there's a review in here, a 22-page review by Lou in this volume. And I pulled off volume after volume, and almost every one of them had a contribution from Lou in his defense of the faith. Now, fast forward a few years, and I don't know whether Dan decided he needed associate editors or it was time to share the burden, but in 2001, volume 13, number 2 of the review, which has now come to be known as the Farms Review of Books, Lou and George Mitten came on as associate editors. And Lou, George, Dan, and I would meet together in a building that no longer exists, in the Farms, where I had an office in the Farms building. And we would plot and plan and decide what we were going to put in the review. And early on, we wanted to review every single book about the Book of Mormon that came out every single year. And that became a little impossible. We increased from 1 issue a year to 2. But Lou and George helped us out a lot. And I tell you, those meetings were a lot of fun. We eventually got things done, but we heard a lot of stories in the meantime. I think that probably Dan and Lou will remember that I would say, okay, now we got to move on. We've got to get something done here. But that was a delight. We looked forward to those meetings. Then Lou also, as many of you are aware, assembled a bibliography of Hugh Midgley's writings, not just assembling the actual bibliography, but also he annotated it. And this is the beginnings, the seeds of a more complete bibliography that we had to wait until Midgley died and quit writing. But he and I were able to collaborate on that bibliography toward the end to make sure we had everything in there that should be there. And that was also a delight to work with you on that. Well, the time came when Stephen and I finally got our ducks together and we were going to go to New Zealand. We have a hobby of going to temples throughout the world, and this is going to be our chance to go visit a temple in New Zealand. So we approached Lou and we said, Lou, would you and Irita like to come with us to New Zealand? Who else would be better to introduce us to New Zealand than Lou? Well, as circumstances turned out, that was the time period when Irita passed away. We went without Lou, but we didn't go without Lou's suggestions. He told us what to see, what to do, and we had a wonderful time. I'm sure it would have been more wonderful had we had Lou and Irita with us, but that was wonderful. Anyway, I'm just very pleased that this particular volume has finally seen the light of day. At one point, Dan Peterson came to me and he said, Shirley, this is really stalling. We need to get this volume out while we still have Lou with us, fortunately. And he asked me to kind of be the go-between between the authors and the reviewers and the editors. And ultimately, we got it pulled together, and ultimately it got printed. And we're going to be so proud to present that to you today, Lou. Thank you for everything.
Well, I probably play the smallest part in all this of anybody here, but I feel it a privilege to have had this chance to get to know Lou better and some of the family through this opportunity. When I've been thinking about today, the image of the kauri tree has come to me, which I'm sure Lou will remember his essay that has that as its theme. And I guess the reason is that for those of you who knew nothing about that, as I did when that started, it's a huge tree. And there's a particular one. What's that called, Lou? The mother of all?
Kali Mahuta.
Kali Mahuta.
Yeah, it's the largest one still standing.
Largest one still standing, and boy, it's impressive. And as I understand it, this is in essence the nourisher of every creature in the forest.
Yes.
And so, no wonder it is. The image of Lou comes to mind because, well, two respects, I guess. One, he's nourished so many of us by his writings and by his presence. Just today, in fact, somebody at a meeting we were just at said, when you really start to understand the gospel in depth through the writings of great scholars, it changes life forever. And I think that that's true with many of the writings you've given to us so generously. Second reason maybe I was thinking of is just because of the many trees that had to be sacrificed to produce all the paper that's in your volume. You have a lot of friends and a lot of family, and they all wanted to write about your influence on their life. When I think about what Joseph F. Smith said, I think it really rings true in your case. He said, the value, something to the effect of the value of the life of an individual is how much love they've given to others. That's the value. That's what we have in the end when we've gone through our lives. And I think the evidence of your love is in the gifts you've given us through your example and your writing. And I hope that love, you'll feel it being reciprocated in rich measure today with all your friends and family here. And thank you very much for that.
I'm trying to remember back. I remember very clearly the first time I ever encountered Louis Midgley. I didn't actually meet him. I saw him on a debate stage in the Wilkinson Center where he was debating Cleon Skousen. Oh. And it was over Skousen's book. What was the name of that? It was Skousen had reviewed a book by an East Coast political scientist, Carol Quigley.
Yes.
Right? And
yes. He had assumed that this 1,000-page American history textbook revealed a secret conspiracy that was running the world.
Right.
And this Brother Skousen's Naked series.
Right.
The Naked Capitalist.
The Naked Capitalist. That's what it was. I remember
you
that.
disagreed with him?
Yeah, he disagreed. So it was fun, I have to say, because I had heard of Cleon Skousen, of course. He was well known. I had not at that point heard of Louis Midgley. And I remember somebody wanting to know which one up there was the communist. He wasn't sure which it was. And someone behind me said, it's that one, pointed to Louis Midgley, who was anything but a communist. That's really, really funny. Anyway, so I thought that was spectacular. I really enjoyed it. I didn't have much contact with him thereafter. And then, I don't know, we began having contact as I got involved with forums, and Lou was involved in that. Then he began to write things for the little journal that I'd started, as Shirley mentioned. And I still remember one really, really amusing day when we were planning to review a certain book that had just come out from Signature Books. And I was on the phone talking to the late Steve Robinson, asking him if he would be willing to write a review. I still remember, by the way, he did. And the opening line of his review was, "Korihor is back, and this time he's got a printing press," which I thought was a great opening line. Lou later tied it with something about it was a response to another book, and he was referring to Ed Decker, the anti-Mormon behind the Godmakers and so on. The title of his review was called "Playing with Half a Decker." But anyway, so I'm on the phone with Steve Robinson trying to persuade him to write a review for us, and my door at campus knocks, and I go open it, and it's Lou. And I said, "Come on in. I'm on the phone." And I told him to sit down. So the next thing I know, I'm talking to Steve Robinson about doing the book, and I turn around, and there's Lou kneeling on the floor in my office, begging me to be given a shot to review that book. So we got 2 reviews of that one, and that was marvelous. And so, Lou has been a prolific contributor to the Farmers Review and its various incarnations, and since the beginning to Interpreter, as we got started with that. And so it's been wonderful. And I just have to say that he's one of my favorite people on the planet. There are people, and then there are personalities, and Lou is a personality. Lou is unique, and just hilariously fun to be. Great storyteller, raconteur, and all those sorts of things. And he's got quite a following, and he has a following of people who love him and people who hate him. And the ones who hate him, I think, just don't get it. They don't understand. And that actually is relevant to the poem that I'm going to read for you. If I can get this and see if I can hold this heavy tome and the mic at the same time. This is a poem that was written by our late, sadly departed colleague, Bill Hamblin, and it's called The Ballad of Lou the Mean. Now, I know that there are people who, when they see this poem, are going to say, he's being celebrated for his viciousness. No, the point is, we don't think he really is mean, but we get a kick out of the image that he has, because he's willing to say, if your book is terrible, your book is terrible. And some people, imagine this, some people don't like to be negatively reviewed, and so they get upset. But anyway, this is by William J. Hamblin. It's called The Ballad of Lou the Mean, subtitle, "With Sincerest Apologies to Rudyard Kipling." Okay. Now, I can't do the Kipling-esque accent that should be done here, sort of low-class Cockney accent or something like that. But you can talk a being kind to them folks of feeble mind if you never leaves your ivory paradise. But for intellectual slaughters while debating dialoguers, you'll need a mind of steel and heart of ice. Now at Sunstone's gloomy clime, where I used to spend me time belittling the signatory queens, of all them postate crew, the meanest man they knew was that book reviewing beastie, Lou the Mean. He was mean, 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 that nasty, vile, repulsive Lou the Mean. In a book or on the net, there's one thing you could bet. All apostates were enraged at Lou the Mean. I shan't forget the night when apostate strode in sight with mere rhetoric where his logic should have been. When he'd finished his mad talk, to the podium did walk the respondent for the session, Lou the Mean. Well, Lou skewered the poor chap and denounced him as a sap. Pause while I turn the page. And exposed his dark agenda, all unseen. The apostate's hands did shake, as Lou showed he was a fake, for he knew he'd been unmasked by Lou the Mean. Lou was mean, mean, mean. His reply was full of venom from his spleen. The apostate, turning red, shouted, "Lou, you'll soon be dead. I'll take no more abuse from Lou the Mean." The apostate drew his gun, and everyone did run, and a bullet come and drilled our Louis clean. I laid him on his side, and just before he died, "Guess here's my final draft," says Lou the Mean. So I'll meet him later on at the place where he's gone, where the signatory dominate the scene. He'll be squatting on the coals, being mean to poor damned souls. Yes, he'll write reviews from hell. That's Lou the Mean. For it's Lou, Lou, Lou. With our book reviews, what shall we do? Though we edit and upbraid you, by the living God that made you, you're the meanest man we know. You're Lou the Mean. Some of you will recognize the echoes of Gunga Din. Anyway, we've all thought that was a treasure ever since, and it had to go into the volume. Well, Lou, I guess I've done my part up till now. I've droned on long enough. It's time to give you a copy of the book. So if you'd be willing to come up, and then I'm going to let you say a few things.
Is Ted going to say something?
Oh, you want to be over here? Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I have jumped the gun. He's not here, and so it didn't. Oh, Ted, I'm so sorry. Sit down, Lou.
He's here.
I forgot we have Ted Vagalis with us online, and so he wants to say something. So I will move over here. See how this. Oh, my word, he's in a Yankees outfit.
Yeah. Well, I heard it was formal, so I dressed up. I'm very excited about this day and touched by everything that's happened, by all the words that Dan and Shirley and Jeff have said. This book does reflect those of us who care very deeply about Lou and all he shared with us. I'll be very brief because I know I can't speak very long. I just wanted to say a couple of things. The first thing is Lou, in many ways, was really, when it comes to the gospel and to my choice of career and teaching philosophy, the father of my soul, in the sense that he taught me to see and hear things and to listen carefully. And in doing all that, I saw things that I would never have known or understood, even though I thought I understood a lot. He helped me to navigate my way through graduate school. He was a phone call always came probably when I needed it most. I was always amazed at his timing. Always a reminder of what to say and what to do, and never be afraid to hold my ground on things. It was truly remarkable, the great influence that he exercised upon me. He taught me a lot about the gospel. In fact, he taught me so much that I found that success in graduate school was tied to my paying attention to the gospel and keeping in mind all the things I had learned, the covenants I made, all these sorts of things. And very often I could talk about things that many in my classes didn't understand. And my teachers noticed that, and they commented on that a time or two. I just wanted to share one experience that was really important for me. Lou knew that I was a convert to the church. He knew that my family was not very happy about the choice I made to become a Latter-day Saint. And one of the things he shared with me from time to time were his experiences as a bishop, talking to some of his students who were also converts, and the fact that he had spoken to their parents a few times. Some of the things he shared with me in those conversations, I took to heart, and it helped me in many ways to bridge those differences with my family. They're still not pleased, but they're not mad anymore, which I think is very important. And I can't think of a greater gift that Lou shared with me than that. And I also wanted to say, Irita was also very kind, very generous, and very wonderful. I wish she could be here for this. When we talked about this, I think we had her in mind as much as Lou, because she is such a wonderful person. And I just want to say thank you to Lou, how much I love you and appreciate you. And you should take pride in your life. You have done what very few are able to do. And I think it's shown by this outpouring today. So I turn it back to Dan now.
Well, thank you, Ted. I'm sorry to have overlooked you. Out of sight, out of mind. You weren't sitting in front of me, so I have short-term attention problems, right? So anyway, but of course, I may have sensed that you were dressed in a Yankee outfit. I mean, that's one area where you and I, and Lou and I, part company. I loathe the Yankees, but but there are people. I mean, otherwise you'd be translated, right?
Right.
So anyway,
And some people
and I
vote
should
US
say a word.
Steel.
I should say a word about Irita too. She's remarkable, and another of my absolute favorite people. We miss her and wish she could be here. We wish we'd gotten this done in time that she could have seen it. But anyway, I hope she is aware. I know she was concerned that it might never get done, and so we wanted to make sure that it did get done for Lou and for her, to make sure that we finished this commitment that we had made. But Lou, all right, now I do want you to come forward, and then we're going to expect a speech on New Zealand and figs and things like that. But I want to give you a copy of this book, which has been long in coming, but represents affection and respect, and in fact, it's inadequate to express how we feel about you. So, Lou.
Well, I have two things to say. I'm absolutely thrilled with this book and its contents. There are some remarkable essays in it, and I'm thankful that it's been published. But I have to say, I don't believe I'm in the same category with those who have had this honor. Hugh Midgley, Stephen Kent Brown, and John Sorensen, and Richard Anderson. I'm not in that league, but I'm honored by it and very pleased by it, and I am confident that my wife is as well. And that's what I have to say. And I thank Jeff and Shirley and Ted and Dan and all that were involved in getting this in place for my birthday.
Okay. Well, that I think really is the program. It's a very simple thing. So, just Lou, we're really happy that we're able to present this to you, and it'll stand as an honor for you and an expression of how we feel about you and the role that we've seen you as playing in the defense of the faith and in the other things that you've done over your lifetime. So, thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that. In 1985, I suddenly discovered that the students were in need of spiritual nourishment as well as teaching facts and information. And I made it a habit of then including at every opportunity the gospel of Jesus Christ, because I thought parents are paying and praying for my effort in that regard. And that changed the way I taught. And not only that, when I sensed that there was criticism of the church that was eroding the faith of some unnecessarily, I thought it worth my effort to defend the faith as well as I possibly could. And not only that, those who are in doubt have made a covenant to defend the faith.
Yeah. And he's always been willing to do that, and we've been grateful for it. And not just in the things that he's written, but the invaluable effort he put in on editing things. Lou is a superb editor. It was really a great help in putting the review of books together and that sort of thing. Just really, really helpful. And I will have to say that Shirley was also essential to that too. We used to laugh. I think it was Lou who coined the term "being itself" for Shirley, because these meetings could have gone on all day as we had time exchanging stories. And it was Shirley who would occasionally have to come and say, boys, we have some work to do. And so we would get on, and actually, she was the reason that the issues of the review actually appeared. Otherwise, we would have just spent time talking about them and laughing about things and telling stories. But it was a great time to work together, and I've treasured that for a long, long time. So, well, thank you very much, Lou. I guess we need to conclude the program because I smell food, and that is something we cannot invite you. Well, we can invite you. Go ahead, virtually, take part, enjoy the food. We're going to. So thank you, those of you who've looked in. And Ted, we wish we could give you a bite, but we can't. Oh, we have another speaker.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lou. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that's a wrap. Am I right? Okay. Thank you very much. Well, congratulations, Lou. Now we eat.
All right. Thank you.
My wife actually made an effort to try to have some crab flown in,
Oh,
but we couldn't pull it off.
So instead, you have shrimp.
if I'd called my friend and
We tried to reach him.
Maybe he's out fishing. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure he'll send it to you sometime. And then you won't have to share it.
Oh, he markets, he spent 30 years on a crab boat in the Bering Sea.